Welcome back to episode 2, baby. Today we have our very first guest on this podcast. Let's go. And it is my longtime internet friend, Dr. MamaHuHears, which many of you guys know her as the creator behind MamaHuHears. She's a pediatric audiologist who's also deaf. She has 2 cochlear implants, a trained chef, a military spouse, a mom of 3 kids, and she runs her own business as a CEO. I mean, what? That's crazy. She's literally superhuman. And the reason I wanted to have her on the podcast is because Michelle is such a light. She's so authentic. She's goofy. And she's always reinventing herself. Like, her belief in herself just wows me. I'm like, oh my God, I want your confidence. And she's just connected to her feminine energy. You know what I mean? And when I say feminine energy, I mean when she has a thought or idea, she receives that thought or idea and then she acts on it. She's so good at going from idea to action. And I just admire her so much for that and always betting on herself. So anyway, in this episode, Michelle is going to talk about growing up as a hard of hearing child in an Asian household, how she was a pediatric audiologist, big words there, and how she went from being the audiologist, like a doctor, to deciding to go to culinary school because that seemed fun to her. How she attracted a life partner, to now how she's navigating deaf motherhood with 3 kids. And they're all CODAs, which is so cool. Again, I think she's just superwoman. And the reason I also wanted to have her on is because she kind of views life as one meal. And she's always asking herself, what are the ingredients of the meal that I want to have, which I find is really freeing because if you think of your life as a meal, you're like, okay, I'm totally in charge of the meal that I'm eating and that I am interacting with every day. So what can I take away from the meal that I don't really want to eat anymore? What can I add to the meal to make it a little more zesty, a little more fun, a little more calm? You know? So, I don't know, you could ask yourself, if I'm looking at my life meal, what ingredient could we add more of to prioritize family? Or I'm looking at my life meal and I'm going, what could we take away from the meal so that I could bring more peace? I mean, you guys know I love a journal prompt. And these are all great questions to ponder on for your own life. But for now, let's go hang out with Michelle. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Elisa Richards. I am your host. Today's an exciting day because we have our very first guest. Our first guest is Dr. MamaHuHears.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, Michelle is one of my near and dear friends because in 2021, when I started posting on social media, it was when I was overcoming my fear of being deaf. Michelle was one of my first friends. She's a creator behind MamaHuHears. And what's iconic about her is that she's a multi-hyphenate. You know, I feel like you're literally a rock star because she's basically a trained chef. She's also a pediatric audiologist who's also deaf with cochlear implants and has her own small business and is a mom of 3 children and has a military spouse. What does she not do? What do you not do, Michelle?
I can't fix the car.
I feel like, you're really good at reinventing yourself because you're always trying new things. I feel like that's kind of scary to do because most people get a job and then, it's easy to stay in that job or maybe stay in an industry and then just kind of move different offices. Tell me about why you keep trying new things.
Funny you say that though, because almost everyone grows up, you think you need to go to school, go to college and get a 9-to-5 job. And I did that. Yeah. I thought, okay, that's going to provide me stability. But I always had curiosities. I always had, well, what if I did this? Or, ooh, I have an idea for that. And that filled my heart. That gave me excitement. That gave me, it fed my adrenaline, if you want to put it that way. I would just think, oh, I really want to learn how to cook this. Okay, well, what's stopping me? The only thing that's stopping you really is the story that you might make up in your mind.
Yeah.
You know, so I had a kind of like a midlife crisis when I'd probably been an audiologist for about 5 years. And I said, I don't know if I like this. Is it the environment? Is it the work? I've always wanted to go to veterinary school. Okay, let's look at that. Let me look up what it takes to go into veterinary school. I was like, no, I don't think I'm interested in that. I've always wanted to go to culinary school. Yeah, let's see what happens. Let me look around San Diego to see what's available. I found 3 schools. One was full-time. One was like college classes where you had to piece together your schedule. And then I found a part-time just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I said, why don't I do that? What's stopping me? The only thing that was stopping me was my idea that my parents wouldn't approve.
Oh, wow. Even though you're 27.
Yeah, I was 27, or I was, at that point, I was like 30 something. But Chinese families, Asian families are just usually mine is very close knit. You could say that they were helicopter parents. I grew up in a bubble, and I never wanted to do anything without their permission.
Yeah.
Well, one like holiday break, I'm talking to my dad, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you always wanted to go. Why don't you just go?" I'm like, "What?
You're giving me permission at 30 something?"
What?
Yeah.
My dad said, "I just want you to be happy." Like, you don't want me to go to school, get a job, and be stable? Well, I do want you to do that, but you know, if you've been thinking about this, your heart's always wanted to do that. Go. Like, that was the biggest gift ever. I went to culinary school, like I went 50% of my job.
Okay.
Went to culinary school the other time. It was the busiest time of my life.
Did you have children yet or no?
I did not have children yet. I had just broken up with a boyfriend, so I was just free as a bird. I took a trip to Africa on my own solo.
Yeah.
And then let me start culinary school. It was the best thing. It was probably the most hardest acoustic environment ever, because there's high ceilings, there's stainless steel everywhere, water running, people shouting. But I learned how to cook, I learned how to cut, I learned how to sear, steam, like all these different things. And those were the tools that gave me confidence in the kitchen. And give me whatever ingredients, and I can be like, okay, I need salt here. It gave me such a mind shift around ingredients.
Yeah.
And I feel like that gave me access to the rest of my life. Is, oh, these are just pieces and parts. What can I do with this?
So you're seeing everything in life kind of like an ingredient.
Yes.
You're like, ooh, I want some more,
Yes.
love. How do I sprinkle that in? I want some more friends. Yeah.
That's exactly what I do in audiology. Okay, you have your kid, you have your grandparents, you have this school, that school. Well, what kind of recipe or what kind of meal do you want to make? How can you envision that? It's like vision board.
Yeah.
What is the final thing that you want? Okay, let's see what we have to work with.
Gotcha.
And then there you go.
Wow.
Yeah,
God, you're so
pretty cool.
So when you went to audiology school, were you like the only one who was actually deaf for the most part?
In my class, yes. A lot of people, they're deaf and they want to become an audiologist. They're told, no way, you can't. I almost had this road paved out for me.
Oh, wow.
Which was such a blessing. Nobody said to me, you can't be an audiologist.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, we're both hard of hearing. I wear 2 hearing aids in each ear, 1 in each ear, and then you have cochlear implants in each ear.
Yes.
So different, but you used to wear hearing aids. And were you like overwhelmed when you switched from hearing aids to cochlear implants?
It's very different. So hearing aids are like a loudspeaker. It's just it's just amplifying the noise at the sound at different levels in your ears, where a cochlear implant is a surgically placed electrode onto your cochlea, that snail shell looking thing in your ear. If you unravel that, it's like keys on a piano. You put an electrode on there, and then you can stimulate all of those different channels. That's how a cochlear implant works, but it's so different because it's sound transmitted electrically straight to your nerve versus acoustically for you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's different. I went from a lot of low pitches to the teeny tiny details and high frequencies. Like I could hear my mom's spoon on a bowl.
Yeah.
I can hear people saying S's and TH's and all those fricative sounds that it was just like, oh my gosh, people are so noisy. Now I understand why you can hear me dragging my feet on the floor. Where I don't think I ever had access to that before.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I do remember when I first got these hearing aids, because my older ones were from like 2012. So I went about 8 years with a gap in technology. and I could hear my roommate's dog's nails clicking on the floor, and I was like, what is that noise?
It's so annoying. You can hear clock ticking, like, I remember being able to study at the coffee shop, and then I got my cochlear implants. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's coffee grinding, steamer going. I can't study here anymore.
Yeah, it's too overstimulated.
Yeah.
Like,
But wait, how long were you deaf before you got hearing aids?
I got my first hearing aids when I was 5.
Okay.
So I tested really like inconsistently from birth till 5.
Okay.
So, but my parents definitely knew, like, when they talked to me, I didn't respond. So they're like, there's got to be something going on. But then at 5, my mom was like, we're not going to put you in school. We're just going to homeschool you for kindergarten and let you like adjust to your new sounds. But I'm definitely the only one in my family that has ever had hearing aids. Okay. So I think it was just like a new venture for everybody. Nobody really knew what they were doing. We were all just winging it.
And then eventually you were like, I'm gonna welcome this.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hid my hearing aids. I mean, when I was a child, I only had mild hearing loss, so I did pretty okay. Same. Yeah, I did pretty okay in school.
So yours got worse. Did you bump your head?
No, I got sick.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a double ear infection and pneumonia. So I had a flu, and then it turned into walking pneumonia. So I just lost some more at like maybe 23, 24. And then I went back to work, and I was like, I can't hear anyone. You know, I was like, oh, okay, I can't even try to fake my way around this situation because I just wasn't responding to people. Yeah. Kind of, grew up with it, but definitely wasn't a good advocate. Like, my mom always kind of had to be my advocate, and she didn't even really know what she was asking on my behalf.
Most deaf children are born to hearing parents.
Yeah.
She didn't know what to do.
But you also made a book, right?
Yeah.
And what's your book is mostly for parents that have deaf children. So tell me about that.
Started off as a video program, like an online program. And I thought, let me write some PDFs, so that goes with this. And it's turned into 120 pages of books.
Of just how your child survives hearing loss?
All the things to consider. Should we sign? Should we talk? Should we go to speech therapy? What's an ENT? What's a audiologist? Okay. How do we do a hearing test? What do I do when my kid's getting bullied at school? How do I advocate? How do I encourage my kid? How do I discuss or tell my family what's going on with my kid confidently?
Yeah.
My whole mission is that hearing parents of deaf children can feel confident, then in turn their children will feel confident and be able to just achieve anything they want in the world.
Yeah.
And I created it, for people like my mom, my dad, like your mom, as well as for me, because I wanted that little child to feel confident. Like, nothing can stop them, because nothing can stop us.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
We're invincible.
All the things that we get ourselves into, right? Maybe that's why. Because when we were young, we were presented with a challenge that was different from anyone else that we were around. Yeah. And we had to figure out, what do I do? This is where you discovered your motivation, your determination. You probably started growing thick skin.
Yeah, and becoming adaptable, learning how to piece together what people are saying to you based off of visual cues, and they're pointing to something. They must be talking about whatever they're pointing to.
Yeah. Or they're laughing. Maybe somebody said something funny.
Yeah.
I call it being a cultural chameleon. Like, you and I can watch a room and we know, something funny about to happen. Yeah. Or that person looks like they're anxious or nervous.
Yeah.
And your other senses are probably heightened.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I also think I'm very, I consider myself an empath because I just absorb everyone's energy. And I have been working on, building a bubble around myself to not do that. But I do think being able to go into a room, and I always talk about this with my partner, is he can't really read the vibe. I'm like, I know what the vibe is. Instant. I can tell, based on how close people are together, I'm like, they're definitely, something intimate's happening over there. You can just, and maybe it's a woman thing too, I don't know.
Maybe. But say you go out and eat dinner, they're on a second date.
Yeah.
They're on a first date. You just automatically can start to see, maybe it's something intuitively or something we were born with. Yeah. Maybe it's something that we grew to become skillful at.
Yeah, part of me from a young age was so determined I think that's why I fought my hearing loss story. It's because I was like, people keep telling me I can't do things, my speech isn't well. I like the only reason I really probably got into cheerleading is because I could hear people, and I was so loud that people automatically assumed I was a cheerleader just because they're like, Alyssa, you're so loud. And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't tell where my voice is landing. Yeah. And then I had a whole trauma of, okay, I'm too loud. How do I pull back? And how do I make myself small? And, you know.
I mean, it's common. A lot of doctors tell parents, your child probably won't go beyond 3rd grade.
Wow.
That's what they told my mom.
Wow.
So when I finished 5th grade, my mom cried to my 5th grade teacher. And he's like, I know we can laugh now, but when you become a parent, when you become a parent, it's weird because they hand you this baby and they're like, see ya, you can leave the hospital now. And you're like, I have to, hold on, a human? You know, what do I do? I have to feed it. I have to feed it. How do I keep it safe? And there's this whole nother world of responsibility and weight on your shoulders. So that's why I created my program. Is the parents are like, how do I do this? I've never lived this life or gone down this journey. Here I am. I said, you know what? I want to put together all of this information into one basket and give it to a hearing parent with a hug, because it's going to be okay. And these are the tools in the kitchen. If you want to create this kind of life, envision this life, these are all the tools to make it exactly the way that you want to be. You want this to be, because you know your family dynamic the best. You know what kind of life you want your child to live, or to guide them towards, because you don't know what your child's going to be interested in.
Yeah.
But that's what I made it for. And my mom, like, she cried at every single milestone. You know, I had a patient that the mom came in, she started crying when she saw that I was engaged. I'm like, what's wrong? She was crying because she said, that means someone's going to love my son.
Oh my gosh.
We can roll our eyes at that now.
But not then. Yeah.
No, well, not from a parent standpoint. We're like, what do you mean? I am so lovable. Are you kidding me? You know, but I can't, like, you don't, I think it's easier on the kid because the parents are worrying about appointments, the outcome, what people are going to think about you. And we're just like, give me a donut and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know, because we don't, as kids, we don't know what the weight of the world can look like. And I think that's why I always want to get back to the inner child, because as children, we don't know the weight of the world. But imagine if more people shed so much of the weight of the world, we'd be so much happier. We'd be so much more productive, more positive, more forward paying, forward thinking.
Yeah.
That's how I want it to be.
It sounds like you grew up with a lot of confidence in your hearing loss. Would you say that's true?
With my hearing loss, yes.
Okay. And why do you think that is?
I think because my parents didn't treat me any differently than my hearing brother.
Okay.
You have hearing aids, you put them on, you don't leave the house without them, you don't leave the house without underwear on.
Okay.
You be a good person, you respect your elders, and you do good in school. But I think there's two sides to everything. I grew up thinking nothing was wrong with me until I did realize, I am different than everybody else. So I dealt with that part later in my more adult life. And I think that's why I created MamaHuHears, because sure, I'm providing information and stories for hearing parents and my peers, but I transformed my own journey with myself. I used to use the word hearing impaired for myself, because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, no, I'm proud to be deaf. This is what has defined me. This is what has helped me grow the most as a human being to get to where my confidence is today.
Were you worried about being a deaf mom, or were you not worried about that at all?
I was worried, mostly for when are my children going to realize that I'm broken or that I'm not perfect or not good enough. So you remember growing up thinking your parents are superheroes and they can fix anything and they can always make your boo-boos feel better. I was nervous, like, what's going to happen? Am I going to see it on her face? Is she going to talk to me about it? Is she not going to talk to me about it or tell daddy about it, or tell her friends that my mom can't hear and, think my mom's not good enough like the other moms? But I just started talking about it with her. I was like, you know what? This is something that I can control. So I said, Mommy can't hear when I take these off. these are Mommy's hearing aids, I started talking to her about my alarm clock, my devices. I started going to ASL classes with her so that we could learn together, because I didn't grow up using sign language. And my confidence grew there. And now when my kids' friends see me, they sign to me at school.
Oh, cool.
Or they ask, like, say a new friend will be like, what's that blue thing in your mom's ear? And my second daughter will be like, can I tell them? Can I show them how it works? And I've taught them how to put the battery on. I've taught them how to put it in my ear. I taught my husband too, but I taught my kids so that if something were to happen, they're my backup.
Yeah.
If I'm in a coma or if I am unconscious and they see us knocked off, you can't, no amount of yelling is going to get to me, right? So I want them to know how to turn it on and put it on so that they can communicate with me.
Yeah.
If possible. So they're my team.
Yeah.
Who else would I want? Like, my audiologist is going to be there on a 911 call, you know?
Yeah, I love that. You made them like involved and safe and comfortable and like not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Because if I were to hide it and constantly take it away from them, it would be the thing that they really wanted to play with and, you know, like
explore.
break. And so when I felt confident, I would let them play with it. I'd show them, just like I show patients in the clinic, this is how you put it together. And they're like, like Legos?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, like Legos. And I want you to practice under my watch so you know how not to break it. Because that thing is important to me.
Yeah. And expensive,
Yeah,
right?
it's expensive. And they know. Mommy's in the shower, she can't hear. They have a song that I just recently heard. Mama can't hear, yeah. And I'm like, do they sing this? Yeah, they do. And then they sign it too. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's
it's just
so
part
funny.
of their CODAs, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're like making their own music and grooving.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I'd rather them be confident and have fun with having a DHH member, deaf or hard of hearing member of their family, than thinking that it's going to make my family different. Why aren't we the same as everybody else? But no, all of our differences are what make us awesome.
Even like as a Southern family, we pretend a lot of things are perfect. You know, it's very like, there's two pillars of the South I like to call like church and football. If it's not those two topics, everything has to be neutral. And I think it's just because nobody wants to be like disruptive.
Survival, almost.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where like when you move to California, like we're in SoCal right now, everybody's like so casual and comfortable and so open to different ideas and ideologies, whereas back home you don't want to be the one that like gets off the conveyor belt that changes. You recently went to Hong Kong and saw your dad. He lives there, right?
Half the time.
How are you also as a mom just like making sure your kids are exposed to both cultures? Because I assume it's kind of easy in San Diego just because there's more variety of
There
like.
isn't.
No, you
That's
don't
why,
think so?
no, I feel
Okay.
like my kids don't get as much Asian culture exposure here because we are in America.
Yeah.
And I'm not as strong in my culture as my parents were. So my parents immigrated from Hong Kong to a small town in Ohio where we were one of only a few Asian families.
Okay.
Every night we would eat dinner together. We would eat Chinese food. We would go to the Chinese grocery store on the weekends, and we would do the holidays, but at home. Here, I'll try to do it, but it's not something that I lived with strongly growing up. I didn't grow up in Hong Kong. So what I was really excited about taking my kids to Hong Kong is to see Hong Kong through my parents' eyes. They know the public transportation routes like the back of their hand. Everyone's speaking Chinese. Sure, a lot of people speak English, but I wanted them to see a different way of life.
Yeah.
In like San Diego, we drive everywhere most of the time. There, not that many people own a car. How do we figure out what meals we want? What kind of food do we like? And it was magical to see my kids just adapt to it.
Yeah.
By the end of the trip, they were like, we want to live here.
Oh,
Can
cool.
we come back? And I was thinking, oh man, we just went to Hawaii for a wedding. Of course, they're going to want to go back to Hawaii because it was beach, it was, pools, it was sunshine. And they said, we want to go back to Hong Kong. It's like,
Wow, cool.
amazing, because that's a part of their roots that, sure, we go to Chinese restaurants here, but not like we don't, it's
It's
not
not
the
like
way
the
of life here.
markets
Yeah.
or, yeah.
It's not the way of life here. They're not exposed to all of the aunties and uncles that I was exposed to. So I wanted to take them there.
What do you think their favorite part about Hong Kong was?
Definitely the memories that came up with the food. Different foods that you can only get there, certain flavors. And
Like what kind of foods?
when we were little, we would go to Hong Kong and fresh made wonton. Like made at the table next to you.
Gotcha.
Hong Kong was the first place where I ever got exposed to homeless people, like on the streets, beggars or performers, and realizing, oh, not everybody has a nice warm bed to sleep in. We didn't have a car. Like we took taxis, minibuses, double-decker buses, subway, tram, all of those things, and just seeing, I think my favorite part was seeing how easily my kids adapted to it. Here in America, I feel like a lot of parents stick to structure because they're afraid of anything outside of the routine. But I learned kids are so resilient. They really are. And as a parent, you want to keep this bubble around your kid to protect them. But I think I'm more embracing, let me throw my challenges at my kids so that I can help them through it now.
Yeah.
Which is the blessing of growing up deaf. My parents were there along the way to help me cope with feelings or figure out bullying in school or adjusting to new hearing aids. It gave me that mindset of, well, this is what I have to work with. What can we do? Versus I'm a victim.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to instill with my kids.
Yeah, and going there and seeing something totally new. And I imagine it's like very stimulating, like busy, a lot of people on the streets. Like,
sure, they had tantrums, they had breakdowns, they, fell asleep, and, my kid was on the floor kicking and screaming, but I'd rather him do it now as a kid than as an adult who doesn't know how to adapt.
And doesn't know how to like self-soothe and stuff like that. Yeah.
So that's what I'm learning a lot in my parenting journey by taking them to travel. Here I can say, not every kid has a playground next to the beach. And they're like, what? And I can't imagine that.
Yeah, I mean, they grow up in a pretty great place. Yeah.
Right? So I want them to see there's a playground smack in the middle of the city. Or there's someone on the sidewalk. That's where he sleeps. They're like, what?
Yeah.
So then they get in their bed and they're like, oh, Mommy, it's so cozy.
I'm so grateful.
Yes.
Yeah. How about like you and your husband? Because not only are you an entrepreneur, content creator, a doctor, all this stuff, how do you manage all those familiar relationships and also have a relationship with yourself?
That was hard. I met my husband later when I was 32, engaged at 33, married at 34, first kid at 35. So
wow. You just bada bing, baby.
I think that I wouldn't do it any other way, but a lot of people get married younger and have kids right away. I feel like the advantage of having kids later is, okay, I kind of figured out what I want to do with life. Now we can add some more on. Figuring out who you are, what you want, and it can constantly change. So whenever things kind of get muddled or, you get flustered, sit still and be like, what do I want right now in this moment? What's not working? It's easier to take out what's not working and then work with what is working. I think that when I met my husband, I said, I'm looking for a life partner. I've always wanted a family. I've always wanted to be a very engaged mom. This is what I want it to look like. Are you aligned or are you not aligned? When I first had my first child, I was like, hold on, how do I go back to work? Am I just paying money for childcare and somebody else hangs out with my kid? No, what I want is to be more present. Okay, what can we shift so that stays? So when you get your pillars, what around it can work? That's why, going back to my program or whatever meal you want to make, this is what I want to make. I know I want to cook chicken, and I know I want it to be spicy. Okay, 2 things that you know for sure. What else do you want to adjust around it?
Yeah. So
with my husband, I said, I know when I want to have a family. I'm not sure that I want to be in clinic the whole time. Okay, so that kind of spared MamaHuHears. Okay. What do I want to create? that will give me joy. So when I started, I said, you know what, let me try it for a year. If I still have fun, maybe I can figure out how to monetize it. Okay, what are they asking for? Of these things that they're asking for, I would enjoy doing this, this, and this.
Like the community, the online community?
Maybe merchandise
Oh,
or
gotcha.
my program. Okay, cool. Or content creating. And then another kid comes along and I'm like, oh, I have no time. I have even less time. Okay. But my tank gets so fulfilled with being that person. However, I saw that I was losing myself. Like, wait, what did I used to love to do? And I figured out, a few years later, Michelle, you have to prioritize you. What fills you? And that was the creativity of having my business, or the creativity of making sure I get to have time to make dinner. Like, I love being in the kitchen. That's what grounds me. But if it's just frazzled because I went from work, I have 20 minutes to get home. When am I going to do the grocery shopping? I'm just going to throw together whatever meal and not enjoy it.
Yeah.
So really kind of peeling back and putting away the things that I don't love. Like if it's not a FBS, to say no in your life, then you can see how much crap you can just put away.
So you're like, I'm going to prioritize making a meal because that makes me feel good, and I'm taking care of my family that way, and I'm going to prioritize my business and my creativity so that I can stay kind of like connected to your own path. And your children can see like, oh, look, Mama's doing her thing. Like, she's changing her own little corner of the world.
Yeah. So my friend Missy, she was teaching me that she has a hard stop at 3:30.
Wow. Okay.
So she works, like, hustles her butt when the kids are in school. And then when her husband comes home with the kids, she's like, phones away. I'm going to be mom. Like, oh, that's really clear because you can't be in two places at once.
Yeah.
And I always thought multitasking is cool. No, like, my kids are begging for a snack. I need to cook a meal. I gotta get the kids out of the kitchen because it's dangerous. How can I do this? No, well, like, let's look at this. Put the emails away. Nothing in my job is an emergency.
Yeah.
And when I said that out loud, I was like, nothing in my job is an emergency. Like, people now think you need that email responded to in an hour. No, you can wait till Monday, or you can wait till the next day.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't love the cell phones. I miss landlines,
yeah.
or office or answering machines. And it's just so urgent now that I'm just going to back away and think, you know what, my priority is my family. I don't care what kind of an audiologist I was on my deathbed. I want to make sure my relationships with my family and my children are complete.
Yeah.
And nothing is left unsaid.
Yeah.
So
that's really good.
When
that's
I
really
stick
cool.
to that is when you define your core values, and they might change over lifetime, that helps you with decisions and frustrations, or just when you're like flustered and lost.
What's your day-to-day schedule like now? Yeah.
So I prioritize, I want to do drop off and pick up.
Okay.
So those are the times when I get to work.
Like you drop your kids off at school.
I drop my kids off at school. I won't schedule any interviews or anything before that time.
Okay.
Make sure I'll do grocery shopping, or maybe I'll do Instacart, whatever. Anything that requires travel, I run it by my husband, make sure, is that okay with you? Like, are you good with that? Because he works full-time too. But he has an amazing job where he can work remotely sometimes.
Okay.
So last year I did a lot of travel. And I thought, you know what, it's too much. I think I want to stay home more, focus on just my business and maybe collaborations, but it has to be within this time frame. Because what's my priority? I would drop my business if my family was in danger or in any kind of harm's way.
Yeah.
But what can I work with? Because my kids' schedule is this. And when they're home, I want to be with them.
I'm kind of backtracking, but when you went to culinary school, after you did culinary school, was it really more for like yourself, like your love of the kitchen,
Yeah.
and less about I want to be a,
chef
world-renowned chef?
Yeah. Yeah, it was more the tool. So
okay,
I
cool.
think I'm a lifelong learner, which probably feeds into all of my curiosities and interests. I wanted to learn how to They have an entry interview, and they said, it's not like you're going to learn souffle. You're going to learn, I should steam this before frying this. Or tomatoes can add sweetness or saltiness. And you're going to learn elements to be able to put together pieces of the puzzle. That's what I was attracted to.
Yeah.
So
it's not about doing it right. It's about learning how to use the ingredients.
Because when you have tools and when you have skills, then your creativity gives the whole project life.
Yeah. Which honestly, I started cooking, I don't know, maybe about 4 years ago. And before that, I never cooked. But then
COVID, right? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, well, I worked in restaurants, but I think I started getting comfortable, like, talking to the chefs. Because, some chefs are a little hardcore. And I had a chef for the first time that was, like, very friendly.
Okay.
And, like, you could tell he cared so much. And so he would tell me I would be a runner at the time, which meant I only ran food. It was great because I only had to look at the table number and then make sure it matched the dish. And then run it. I didn't have to talk to anybody yet because it wasn't a server. So I was like, this is great. I just get to like watch and run food without actually having to use my ears.
People smile when they see you coming with their food.
Yeah, I was the hottest girl in there. You know what I mean? Like everybody was like, oh, there she is. There's our food. So, but after that, I was like, ooh, this is fun. Like, I think I realized I didn't have to buy store pre-made stuff. It was like in between college and adulthood. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this. So now I have a blast and I'm more confident in being like, we should add, bell peppers in this or honey. Yeah, so I always love meeting other people that like to be in the kitchen because I'm like, this is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be so serious. And I think cooking allowed me to be easier on myself as an artist. Just because I was like, oh, it's okay if I add too much lime. I know how to balance it. I'll add more chicken broth or whatever it is. I think that's really cool, like the whole ingredient life-making choices, So, and I do think it's intuitive because you kind of like just trust yourself, With
experience comes more knowledge. It's the experience that you're really investing in.
We're both a little bit of the woo-woo girls. We love it. I have been intuitive my whole life. I think I didn't really know that. I didn't have like vocabulary for that. I started meeting other women that were kind of similar to me, and I got into a meditation group where we all shared just different experiences, and I was like, how do I know if it's my gut versus how do I know if it's my anxiety? Like, how do I know which one is the truth when making life choices? And then I realized later that when it was my gut, it was like, it was never loud or like attacking or never spoke negatively. It was just like
an underlying.
Yeah, it was so quiet. It was so quiet. And it was also like nothing negative was about it. Like even if it was a bad
anxiety
thing.
Is like
Anxiety.
shouting.
Yeah. And if I'm like, oh, I want to do this, I want to start a podcast, my anxiety would be like, well, these are the reasons why you can't. But the gut is going, no, it's okay. We can do this. Yeah. Like, yes, there's no negativity attached.
It's kind of like, okay, if you want to do it, go do it.
How did you build your intuitiveness?
I think in college, grad school, I was a pretty anxious person. And I still am sometimes in situations where I've never been in. I did a matrescence, like a motherhood transitioning kind of workshop where they taught me about a golden globe and creating a protective bubble around myself. And I say that I'm not good at meditation, but what is meditation? Is it quieting your mind? Is it falling asleep? Is it just being quiet for 20 minutes? Through that workshop and other leadership types of workshops, I've learned, okay, just be still and be present. What you know is true will come through. And someone else also said, you already know the answer. What is it that's giving you anxiety? And it's usually ideas of what other people will think about me or my decision. Quieting myself. My kids are learning this at school. Breathing in, breathing out, and just, smell the flower, blow the candle type of thing. And they're just like, okay, no, I want to do that. And then giving myself grace of being human for wanting that. Sorry, I want to say no to you and I want to say yes to this. It has nothing to do, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I only have one life to live. This is what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah. I have come to realize that I'm really good at manifesting because I've done so many different things. Like, you went to audiology school, you went to culinary school, so it's like, you know that you can get what you want because you've proven and have confidence in your ability to follow through. But I think after I did a couple of the things I thought were like bucket lists and then realizing, oh, I don't want that anymore, I kind of went in this phase where I was like, oh, I really am a powerful creator. I can get anything I want. So I really need to be so specific because I know whatever I go for will come. And I kind of got in this like freeze state of, I don't know if it's perfect though. I don't know if it's like, you know what I mean?
It's hard. Yeah. They always say just do it, or getting it done is better than not even starting.
Yeah.
Or something. But you want it to look good. You want it to. So with that, I would say, and write down how you envision it. So how do I want this to be? All right. So, all right, how about this? For our wedding, we had a day of planner who helped us, but she also said, what is one thing that you want to happen that if it happens, that's all that matters. That's all that makes your wedding day. So for me, I said, I want to make sure that I can hear his wedding vows. Like, I don't care about the food. I don't care about the cake. I don't care about the pictures. If I can feel and hear his wedding vows, that's all that matters to me. So when you do it that way, you say, if I could have it all my way, how would it look?
Yeah.
And then you have that within you. You already lived it. So that anything that kind of goes awry, it doesn't really matter anymore.
It's like, I got what I prioritized.
Yeah.
I got what was impactful.
They say that with your birthing plan. How do you want it to happen? Oh, I want it to be rainbows and butterflies and like no pain. Are you kidding me? Okay, sure, write that down. Yeah. And then you imagine that, live through it in your mind. And then it's like, okay, like I already had that perfect birth. And then anything else can kind of go.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Basically what you're saying is you should imagine it as you've already experienced it, exactly how you want, so that you've already had that experience.
Then
for
you can
yourself.
let it go.
You can let it go.
Yeah.
Because you've given it to
yourself. If you don't put it out in the world, you cling to it. And you have anxiety of it not going the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. This is why your mama hears. So much knowledge. No, I mean, I can tell, like, some things I don't care about at all. And they go, like, anytime me and my partner travel, we have no agenda. Because I'm like, we're just going. And they always say recommendations for strangers are dancing lessons from God. So it's kind of like you just go with whatever people tell us. And so we just meet people in coffee shops, and the baristas will say, you should go do this.
Okay.
And that's what we go do. Yeah. And so, like, when we travel, I have so much fun because I have no need or desire to control. But when I do get creative, I'm like, oh, but I want it to look like this. But I love the idea of being like, let me do it like this in my head. Okay, I've had that experience. Now let's just go make something else.
Yeah. And when you travel, like, you and your partner have an agreement of let's be free to what's going to come. If you didn't, if you were two different people or of different mindsets about travel, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So at some point you had that discussion or you had that understanding, this is what we're committed to when we travel.
Yeah. Are there ever things like dreams or anything that you get nervous to tell your husband about?
Not anymore. In the beginning, I had a story from when I was younger that anything that was treasured or something that I loved, it would always disappear. So I had a best friend in first grade who just suddenly said, I don't want to be your best friend anymore. Out of the blue. And I'm like, I had no control over that. So I took that story and I kind of repeated it through places. And all of my relationship before my husband, I kind of self-sabotaged. And then I would work so hard at making it work until I realized, what if we're just not a good match, right? So when I manifested my husband, I put down on a paper, these are the characteristics I want in a person. And I went on like 40 or 50 dates that year.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of what I didn't want, which is not a bad thing. I said, okay, clear that away, clear that away, clear that away. And I got closer and closer and closer to what I wanted. I wanted somebody who would communicate, someone who had a good head on their shoulders, good financial like mindset, and wanted a family. And when I met him, I told him all of those things, and he's like, I was just trying to decide on what tacos I wanted to get. But he loved that I knew what I wanted, and he said, I can fulfill on every one of those. And one of them was he makes me laugh at least 3 times a day.
Oh, wow. Okay,
and he was
cool.
like, okay, 3 times. Okay, I did it twice. Let's do something else, right? And when you have more boundaries or framework, it's like the ingredient thing. Those are the pillars. Where else can the creativity come in?
Yeah.
So I used to be like that, and I would tell him, I'm afraid I'm gonna push you away. I'm afraid something is bad is gonna happen because I'm so happy. And he is complete opposite of me. He is so confident. He doesn't let stories get in his way, and he would be like, okay, thanks for telling me. And I'd be like, what? You know, and
I need
he's
reassurance.
like, what do you want me to do about that? You just told me I'm like scared of this, and you also told me it's a story. But now he's like, okay, got it. What do you need? Like, do you want me to say no, that's not true, or do you want me to just did you just need a trash can?
Yeah.
To me, so okay, that makes sense. I think now I'm more like afraid of overwhelming his brain with all of my ideas because he's very go through everything that you got to go through and then tell me your 3 last picks.
Gotcha. He doesn't want to help brainstorm, or
Not that he doesn't want to brainstorm. It's a lot that goes on I think it's a female brain. It's like all the time. And he's like, I'm simple. I just want to make you happy. I just want our family to be healthy and happy. And I just want to relax at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You're like, great.
Yeah.
So is your husband also like woo-woo, or?
He didn't grow up like it, and he was in the military for 22 years, but I recently, maybe 10 years ago, or when we first met, I introduced him to vision boards.
Okay, cool.
And he's like, sure, I've seen this on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, whatever, right? He's like, I'm going to put filet mignon and, I don't know, some car and John Cena. I ended up making him steak like a few weeks later. He goes, my vision board's coming true. We saw John Cena at a restaurant. He's like, what's going on, right? So we try to do them every year. Most of the stuff has come true.
Oh, wow.
How many kids we've had, sleeping well, financial success, like family moments and adventures. I introduced him to tarot cards.
Oh, cool. How was that?
His were spot on the first time he ever did it. And
Really?
he's like, yep. So anytime we have difficult decisions, he's like, let's bring the cards out.
I love it.
What?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. But I mean, you don't put all your eggs into that.
Yeah.
But it's a great way to open up thoughts and conversations, and I love sharing it with him.
I recently got into Oracle cards like this past year, and I haven't quite made it to tarot yet, but Oracle cards are easy and they're relatively all positive. And, you know, my old roommate, though, used to do tarot for me before I kind of really understood what it was. I think I understood, like, oh, when you see something that is also validating what you're feeling, you kind of be like, it kind of reassures you that you do want that thing.
Yeah.
Or that you don't want that thing. Or, I don't know, I kind of use it as like a guideline.
It reassures you that what you're feeling is real, even though you can't tangibly touch it or see it.
Yeah.
So all of these things that I do, that we both do, I actually went and got an ADHD evaluation. They did the formal testing. Textbook-wise, I'm not. But what she said at the end of the evaluation was, because she asked me, how do you feel about this? Like, does it make you frustrated that you don't have that label or not? And I said, no, it's actually okay. Like, I think I still have some tendencies, but it's nice to know that maybe I don't fit the textbook definition. And she said, all of that to say, what you feel or when you feel frustrated or flustered, it's real. It's very real to you. And I use that with my kids. When they're having a meltdown, it is very real to them that somebody stole their toy. Okay, how do we deal with that? You know, like when you're getting ready for prom, this is the biggest thing that's happening to you.
Yeah.
And now we're like 20 years past prom. You're like,
what
are you even worried about? But in that moment, that's where you are. And that's valid. So I think that's what the cards kind of give you.
Yeah. And it's so fun. You know, it's so fun. And did you grow up like with that environment or not really? Okay.
Well, not tarot or oracle cards, but Chinese culture and traditions have a lot of superstitions, spiritual ideas or ideations. I guess you could say superstitions, like wearing red is a very, very happy color. We always honor our ancestors, and on their death anniversaries or their birthdays, we create a meal for them and offer it to them, like an ofrenda. So I've always been spiritually inclined. Yeah.
What about your husband?
So many different ways. Not really.
Okay.
Not so much. He was brought up Catholic. Never got into the woo-woo-ness that I feel like feminines are more drawn to it.
Like, we need some help over here. We need to hire an angel. You know, I need somebody to get in here and help me.
Yeah. What I love about him is on the exterior, he's hard, emotionless, and just like structured.
Like military all the way.
Yeah. And it's wonderful in many ways. And then I get to see this other side of him. He is on the ground with the kids. He has such a soft spot for my kids, our kids. There's just that human side of him that when I first met his cousin, she said, I've never seen him this way. Like, you've unlocked something. And I'm like, cool.
We love that power.
Yeah. But we're very good partners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just works.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's pull a card.
So explain to me oracle cards to you.
How I practice? So I always pull 2 cards.
Okay, and what is it? Like, one is now the question or something? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I usually think of like maybe a topic or just like, I always love quotes of the day.
Okay.
So I would always like rip a piece of paper and it'd be a different quote by somebody. And then it would be like my jumping off journal prompt because I love to journal.
Okay.
So then when I got oracle cards, I was like, you know what? I'm going to treat this like a quote of the day. I'm just going to pick a card and then see what resonates and then maybe write about that a little bit. The first card I pull, I usually think of as like a whisper of like what I need to hear. And the second card I always think of like, what's the action?
Okay.
So, I mean, you can make your own rules, or I just follow the book. I'll give you the cards and you can shuffle because I know you're also used to.
Okay.
So excited.
Cool. You should do this for every podcast. You totally should. Earth School, life lessons, soul growth, study, and higher learning. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Constantly learning. Always a learner. There is always something that you can learn from even a brand new person. Like, I love mentoring students because they bring me back to my audiology roots. You know, this one. All paths lead home.
Oh, yay! You got such good ones. So
And-
the first one is Earth School, which is, I guess, the whisper. Life lessons, soul growth, study, higher learning. I feel like that's like a reminder, like the whole point of coming here is to learn lessons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the whole point is to build relationships or maybe heal things from past lives or, you know, whatever. And then all paths lead home, inner authority, intuition, turn your gaze within, which you already do so much. You know, like, what are the new things coming this year? It is the year of the wood snake, right? The lunar new year.
I didn't even know the element. Yes, the year of the snake.
Yeah.
So next Wednesday, the 29th, is Lunar New Year.
Inner authority, intuition. So cool. We talked about both of these things.
Yep. We did. Of course we did.
I know. It's so fun. I love it. Tell us where everybody can find you online.
So I have a website, MamaHuHears.com. You can also find me at mama.hu.hears on Instagram, which is where I'm probably most active.
She shares like all sorts of like very educational, funny, relatable, like bite-sized information. I mean, she's the first person I was like, oh, this is valid because not only is that person deaf, but they're also an audiologist. So I was like, double win. I feel double seen right now.
I'm so glad we found each other.
I know.
With you, I was like, oh, she's confident. What?
That's so funny. Everybody says that, and I do not feel that way at all. you know.
But see, there's your exterior and then there's your interior that you're kind of protecting.
Yeah.
That's your bubble.
Yeah, that's my bubble.
Thank you for bringing these.
Yeah, I thought it would be fun.
I'm so glad I got to hang out with you today.
I know. Give me a hug. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope that you feel empowered and reminded that you can do literally anything you set your mind to, okay? If you feel stuck or sad, use Michelle's analogy. What can you add or remove from your life to bring in more blank? Fill in the blank. Whatever you want, baby, you can go get it. Maybe it's fun. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's creativity you're looking for. No matter what it is, let this just be a reminder that you hold all of the cards. I'm rooting for you always. See you next week. Oh, and if you feel so called, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you liked about the episode. I appreciate you. Bye.